Here we are, guys. Welcome back to the Escape 9 to 5 show. Welcome to another interview here in this program that we have here inside my channel. I'm trying to realize if everything is working on LinkedIn. Looks like that we have a little delay on LinkedIn, but I will try to fix this.
It's
I'm doing
usual,
it
right?
right now. Okay, so looks like that everything is working now. Nice. So today, as you can see from the title of this episode, we're going to talk about speaking. We're going to talk about how to become a speaker, how to land paid speak gigs, and we will talk about this with an expert. You always know that I bring an expert here. I fixed everything, so now I'm totally focused. I always bring experts here to the Escape 9 to 5 show to talk about different topics, and today is about land speaking gigs and paid speaking gigs. So I have a great and incredible expert for this today. She is a speaker, obviously. She teaches you how to land paid speaking gigs. She helps you to be a better speaker. She helps you to become a speaker. And you know how important this topic is for me. I always talk about the fact that you should put yourself in front of your audience, and you should use every possibility you have in order to be in front of an audience and speak to them. So we are saying the same thing here. The message is you should become a speaker. I have a lot of questions for the guest of today. I'm going to bring her here on the screen. I want to welcome to the Escape 9 to 5 show, Pascalle Bergmans. Welcome to the show.
Well done, thank you.
Did I
Oh,
pronounce your surname in the wrongest way possible, right? Bergmans.
no, oh, don't worry, I've heard it way worse.
It's like mine. Yeah, I heard my surname pronounced in all the possible ways, and I'm used to that. So probably you're
Is
too.
it? Yeah. It's just what happens when you don't have a usual name, I guess.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Well, nice to have you here. Thank you very much for accepting this invite that I sent you. I have a lot of questions for you. I have a long list of questions here, and I want to go through all of them. And I want to invite people watching to drop your questions in the comments. If there is anything that we're not covering with what we're saying during this interview, and you want to ask this to Pascalle, just drop your questions in the comments. I will take a look. I keep an eye on the comments, and I will forward the question to Pascalle, and she can cover a new topic that you're interested in. But before questions, I want to know a little more about you, Pascalle, and even for the people who may not know you, tell us a little more about your story.
Sure. So I grew up in the Netherlands. I'm, born and bred. A lot of people think I'm from like the US, or some people even said Ireland recently. No, I'm just fully Dutch. Moved to the UK about 7 or 8 years ago now. So I've always had a career in musical theatre. Did that in the Netherlands. Had a really good time doing that. But then I wanted more, because the Netherlands is a small country. So I moved to the UK because I wanted to be on the West End, and was lucky enough to make that dream come true. So I got to do a lot of very awesome shows on the West End, which, it was really one of the best experiences of my life. And unfortunately, then 6 years ago now, I had a stroke. So I became fully paralyzed on the left hand side of my body. So I had to change tactics, if you will. So that meant that I, still had to pay rent and pay the bills. So I started working in the corporate environment and absolutely hated that. But I noticed that a lot of people were struggling with their communication skills. And that's kind of where it all started for me. So I started posting on LinkedIn, I launched my own business. And after a while, I started to get paid to speak. And then I realized that other people were not getting paid to speak. So I created a method to help other people to get more paid speaking gigs. And that is now 2 years ago, or just over 2 years ago. So yeah, I've been running Present Tales for 2.5 years and having great fun doing so, and helping lots of other people get their story out there and get paid whilst doing it.
Nice. So you are saying that you learn by yourself how to enroll paid speaking gigs, or did you have some
Yeah.
help?
I had no help. I
Oh
was
wow.
completely self-taught. I think um, what made things easier was I always had a background in musical theatre, so I was very used to being on stage, and I was used to negotiating contracts because when you're an actor, you get asked to sing, you get asked to appear on guest shows and stuff like that. So I was kind of used to that world of being on stage. So when I started posting on LinkedIn, I started making videos. People started reaching out. We're like, hey, would you like to come and do a talk on communication at our event? And I said, cool, this is what I charge. So I just started charging, and people were like, of course, we pay you because you're an expert and we want to pay you for your expertise. So that's where it started. And then after a while, I was getting asked by some of my clients who I was just coaching on normal public speaking skills. They were like, hey, how do we get paid to speak? So I was like, well, okay, this is kind of how I did it. So I reverse engineered my own process, and then it worked for them. So I was like, wait, if my method works for me, but it also works for other people, then we really got something to work with here. So yeah, and in the meantime, I learned more and more and more about speaking and paid speaking, and yeah, now we're here, so completely self-taught.
Oh wow, wow, that's really interesting. I really like when you said that they wanted me to speak, so I said, okay, this is how much I charge.
Yeah,
We usually think that we should deliver everything for free. We should just give everything for free, and we should never charge for anything that we know, any knowledge that we have, or any skill that we have. But this is really smart. At the end, you are an expert, and you are there to
yeah.
speak. You are there. You're spending your time. You basically build your knowledge. So why not getting paid for that? It totally makes sense.
Exactly. And I think I was very lucky that I had a husband as well who was pushing me. So when I got my first speaking gig and they were like, hi, this and that and the other, and I said, okay, I charged 2.5 grand because that was my day rate at the time when I worked with corporations. And I was like, well, this is nothing but me doing the job I've been trained to do, the job I've done for 20 years whilst being on stage. So of course I should charge for that. But it's true what you're saying. A lot of people have the mindset of, oh, thank you for allowing me on your stage. And they're so bloody grateful that they get to speak that they don't even think about charging for it. And I think that's a big mistake. Like, you are being asked as an expert, as a thought leader, to share your expertise. People should damn well pay for that. If it was a normal workshop, you would charge for it. So just because it's on a stage at a conference or at a company offsite doesn't mean you just shouldn't get paid for your expertise.
Absolutely. I totally agree. 100%. I think that we shouldn't always give away what we know for free because
Yeah,
it's something that we created. We work for it. We spend time growing
yeah,
our knowledge. We gave our effort to build what we know and what we are. So why not charging for it? It totally makes sense. I
yeah.
absolutely 100% agree with you. But let me ask you a question. Okay, you are an expert and you are pretty comfortable on stage. You do this for a living. But now imagine someone who is starting at the moment that has never been on a stage. It should be on the stage for the first time, like wants to be on the stage for the first time and wants to get the first gig possible. Do you suggest to this person, do you recommend to this person to charge as well or not in that case?
So it's a really, really tough question because it really depends. Because I see people who start their business in a completely new field, they've done it for 6 months and they expect to get paid £5,000 to come and speak. I don't think that's quite fair because you're not yet a thought leader in your space. You're not yet an expert in what you do. But if you are someone who's worked in this industry for at least 3 years, okay, at least 3 years, in one specific thing, 2 to 3 years I would say, and you're ready to get, to get onto a stage. If people ask you to share your expertise, they should pay you, but it doesn't always have to be in cash. They could pay you with pictures, for example. They could pay you with video content, because when you're starting out, you have no proof of you as a speaker and how good you are as a speaker. So to those people, I often say, do that first gig for free in terms of cash, but make sure that they either pay or arrange for a photographer and a videographer so that you get all of the content, so that you get paid in content, because that's going to help you land more expensive gigs later down the line. So it really depends. If you're just starting out, like you're just out of school, you don't really have a lot of experience yet in your field of study, in your field of expertise, maybe try that first gig totally for free and just sort of see how people respond to it. But if you're an expert in your field, charge for your time. Like, it's a mindset problem that we have, because you wouldn't like coach a client for free. So
Hmm.
why would you give your expertise away for free?
That's true. Even when you want to work for clients and you're just starting, there is an advice that I give over and over and over, and it's really similar to what you said right now. I always say, look, you can work for free, but you can always ask for something back that will allow you to get more clients in the future. So you can work for free for your first clients, but then ask for a review, ask for a referral, ask, pretend something, because your time is valuable. Even if you're not working in this field for 3, 5, 10 years, your time is valuable and
Yeah.
you are helping someone. So if you're not ready to charge, and I absolutely understand it, some people are not ready to charge and they have to get some experience and some testimonials along the way. Well, ask for something. Ask for something that will allow you to get more clients in the future. Ask for a testimonial. Say something like, okay, you know what? I'm going to help you with this. I just ask for a testimonial from you in return when I finish my job. And if you know someone who may need my help, I would love if you can refer me to someone. That's all you need to ask, and still, it's not completely for free because it's a win-win situation. You're getting something, and obviously, as Pascal said, if you are in your field for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, it's time to charge. You don't have a hobby; you have a business, so it's time. It's time to charge. Let me ask you, Pascal, what are the main problems that you faced when you started with your speaking career?
Oh, many, many problems. I think one of the main ones was creating a signature talk.
Hmm.
So I, in the beginning, created a new talk for every single gig that I was doing, which was very time consuming. And it meant that there was no sort of clear message that I was sharing with people. So for me, that was one of the first things that I fixed. I was like, cool, I want to be known for one thing. Because at some point, I was talking about communication cultures, I was talking about team communication, I was talking about confidence. It was all way too broad, and I had to learn a lot of material. So I was like, no, no, make it easier for yourself so that you have a set, bank of talk. So between 1 and 3, you don't really want to go over that in the beginning, so that you know exactly what to deliver. So that was one of the first things. The second was proof. Having the proof to charge what you want to charge. So I started my speaking career at 2.5K for a keynote, and a keynote is between 20 and 30 minutes. And some people say, oh my God, like that's so much money for so little time. And I'm like, there's a lot of preparation that goes into this. And you're also paying for years of expertise and learning. So really, it's not that much. But when I wanted to start charging more, I wanted to get to the 5,000, 10,000 mark. This is where things got really hard, because I was not very savvy in the beginning. I was not great with social media. So I didn't have any video content of me on stage. I didn't have a lot of pictures of me on stage, because in the beginning, I didn't think about asking people to create that for me, to help me create that. So that was a really big problem in the beginning. But once I started to get that content, because people said, oh, do you have a video of you speaking? And I'd be like, no. So they said, well, then how do we know that you're a good speaker? Why would we pay you £5,000? So that was a big problem. And then I started to increase my what I call speaker assets. So I started to create a speaker reel, I started to create a speaker website, a speaker pack, everything you would have as a business, right? If you are a coach, you have your pitch deck, you have your solutions and offers in a deck. It's all wonderfully packaged. But when we think about speaking, we think about it as like this extra thing. But you need to start looking at it as an actual business. This is another offer within my business. And as soon as I did that, all of these other problems went away.
Nice. And this is something that you created little by little, right? Like you're
Yes.
real, and then it's not that you need everything to start. It's
Oh
just you
god, no.
start with something, and then little by little you add new things, right?
Yeah, like I started with a few terribly filmed videos on LinkedIn, literally with my phone, just going like, "Hi, here's a tip," and they were actually terrible edited as well. Like they weren't very good. You can go back onto my LinkedIn and find them. It is painful to watch. So I started with very little, but if you want to start charging more and get to the more higher level events, you do need to start looking more like a speaker.
Yeah, absolutely. And this just to show everyone watching that we all start from zero. We all start from, terrible video that we cringe about. Same thing for me. If I go back to my first videos on YouTube, really, I'm gonna cringe. It's painful. It's physically painful to watch myself struggling in front of the camera, how inexperienced I was, how nervous I was. But yeah, we'll start from there. So if you're watching and you're thinking, okay, I will never be able to do something like this because I'm not able to be in front of the camera, I'm afraid to be in front of the camera, I can't be on a stage, I can't speak in front of a crowd. Look, it's something that you learn little by little, and you start with a crappy video online and you end up being an expert as Pascal here. So just start small, small, step by step by step by step. That's all we done. Don't be afraid about it. I wanted to ask you one thing that for sure people watching this are wondering. Okay, makes sense. It makes sense. I can charge for my expertise. I need to have a reel. I need to have all these things that allow me to get more speaking gigs. But how can I find my speaking gigs? What am I supposed to do? Or where I'm supposed to look for to find these gigs?
Yeah, that's like the number one question, right? That everybody asks. So, this is a long winded answer, but there's a few different ways of doing this. Number one, we have outbound and inbound, just the same as with sales. Like, honestly, start thinking about public speaking as a business. That's the best advice. So, in order to create inbound speaking gigs, you need to start showing up online more. That can be LinkedIn, it can be Instagram, it can be Facebook, wherever you're having your audience right now. Make sure that you start posting and put yourself out there as a thought leader and show that you're available to speak. Start conversations with the right people so that you start building that network, which is a little bit of like, duh, of course I need a good network, but make sure you curate that network on a regular basis. Now, in terms of actually going out there and finding your gigs, I found LinkedIn very, very helpful because LinkedIn is more for business. It is where more events promote themselves. So it is a good platform for it. And it's a platform that I've used for the past 2 years. Another thing that I do is setting Google alerts. So you can go into your Google settings, and I highly recommend you make a separate email address for this because otherwise you will get too many emails. And you can literally select and tell it, this is the kind of information I would like to receive. Please send this to me on a weekly basis. And you will literally get events in your inbox. So this is a little trick of the trade. And then another thing is looking at where your peers and competitors are speaking. Because whenever people are on stage, they love to share it because you can't look more successful and more like a thought leader than when you are on the stage. So look at where people in your field, where are they speaking, and start reaching out to those events. And before you know it, you've built a whole events list of events that are happening in January, in February, in March, so forth and so on. So those are the first places I normally tell people to start when it comes to looking for gigs.
I love this. I love it. I hope that people are taking notes because this is absolutely pure gold. Are you saying that? Okay, this is a little. It's a tough question, but I want to see your point of view. Do you think it's a number game? Do you think that the more requests I send to these events, the more gigs I can find, or
No,
not? Or
no, absolutely not. It's a strategy game. You need to be really, really strategic with it. So I see these people on LinkedIn, right, who just send thousands of people these cold DMs. Hi, I'm impressed by your profile. It's always the same stuff. And I don't think they will have a very high success rate. So, what I think is that you need to be more strategic with how and who you're reaching out to. So, for me, that means I'm someone who specializes in communication and paid speaking. I'm not going to be reaching out to tech events where they talk about the newest tech. I'm sure there might be a space for me to speak. I've actually once spoken at a tech event, funnily enough, because they had a stage that was built for like personal development. And I was like, why is this even here? They were trying it out. It was good fun and games, but I would never reach out to them. I'm going to look at the events that are fit for me, where I know I can be an addition to their audience. You always need to think about the organizer and their audience, because the organizer wants as many people as possible to come to this event and have a good time so that they purchase their ticket for the next event. So make sure that you go, hey, this is an audience that I can speak to, that I can help with a specific problem. So reach out to that organizer, go, hi, I know you're putting on this event, looks amazing. Looked at last year's agenda. I see that you have some spots for X, Y, and Z. Here's how I think I can benefit your audience. Let's have a conversation. So I don't think it's a numbers game, it's a strategy game.
That's true. That's true. Absolutely. Obviously, when you have to tailor the message that you send as a request to speak, it depends. It depends on the message that you're going to craft. You can't use the copy
Yeah.
and paste template for everyone and pretend that just because you send 100 requests, you're going to get some yeses. It doesn't work
Oh,
like
yeah.
this. It works more. You should work more on the quality than the quantity. You have to craft the right message. You have to put the right. Maybe we can talk about this later. How to write the right message as a request to speak. Actually, I saw some good questions in the comments, and I will forward them to you. But before that, I wanted to ask you one thing about, because you said that you have to be selective about events and you have to network. You mentioned networking before.
Yeah.
So how do you combine this thing? Like you said, you have to network with the right people, and online, especially on LinkedIn, you can find everyone and you can speak with everyone. So maybe if you want to speak next year on a specific event, maybe you take a look at the event of this year and you connect with the speakers who were there, and you try to create a relationship with them in order to find someone who connects you to the event next year. Is this the kind of network you're talking about, or something different?
I'd be even more specific because the speakers, they also want to get rebooked. So they're not going to really make sure that you're going to get booked instead of them.
Hmm.
So what I would do is look at who's organizing this specific event, right? And look at the event director, the content director. There's always multiple people on a big event like the ones that you're talking about. So that means I need to start reaching out to them. So the first thing I normally do is I just connect with them. I don't send them a message. I don't become one of those pitch slappers. So I just connect with them and then see if they accept my request. If they do, I'll send them a quick message. Hi, thank you so much for connecting. And that's it. Because desperation when it comes to pitching is one of the worst things you can do. Then I see if they start to engage with my content, right? So my content shows up on their feed. They go, oh, okay. They start liking it. They might leave some comments. And I go, cool. And I start another conversation. I go, hey, thank you so much for engaging with my content. What did you think? And then I might mention, I know that you're running X, Y, and Z event. I believe that my topic on X, Y, and Z could be a really good addition to the event because your audience generally struggles with A, B, and C. How about we have a conversation? They've already warmed up to me. Yeah, so now is the time to start sort of seeing if they're open for a chat. And I think the big mistake a lot of people make, because they're so eager, they want to get their speaking gigs, they go right in there and they try to win the war. And with that, I mean, they try to get a, yeah, sure, you can be a speaker with one message. Don't do that to yourself. Send a message, and your only goal should be the next step in the process. Don't try to circumvent the process with one really good message. Build the relationship, but go for the people that actually decide who gets to be on their stage. That's what I would advise. Yes, it's nice to speak with other speakers, especially if they don't talk about a similar subject, but they're not always going to be shouting your name to the event organizers so that you can get on that stage instead of them.
That's true. That's true. If I can add a little advice that people can use here, the great thing about being all connected through the web is that you can create connections and relationships in different ways on the web. In my case, for example, I interview a lot of experts. And I got a lot of speaking gigs because I interviewed the right people. I interviewed people who are organizing events. I asked them to jump on my interview and to have an interview with them and to have an episode with them. And the result of this was that we created a connection, because if we spend an hour together speaking, you have trust for each other and you have a real connection with each other. And then it makes sense to, when the interview is over, to talk about the next event that this person is organizing and if he's looking for or she's looking for speakers. So this is a method that I've been using a lot and it works really well. So in case you have a podcast or a show, think about interviewing people who are organizing events, because this will create a great connection that you can use in the future. This is just something that I wanted to drop there because it worked really well for me, and probably there are people here who have shows or podcasts as well. But I'm aware of time, so let me forward you some questions that before that, before I forget this, how do you craft the right message? And then I will go with the questions from the audience. What do you write? Just let's go really fast through this. What are the sections that you absolutely need to have to the message that you send to this person who is organizing an event?
It really depends on the event. Okay, there is no one right answer here. Unfortunately, a lot of the speaking game is trial and error, and you need to learn. I actually have a whole document with templates and snippets that I use, which my clients will get.
Nice.
So that's gold information. So, for example, if you want to get on a event's radar, I recommend that you look at when their event is. Make sure that's a little bit in the future, okay? Not next month. When it's a little bit in the future, you go, hi, when will you be selecting your speakers for this event? They will reach out to you to say, oh, we'll be selecting them in June if their event is in October. And you can just very easily say, cool, I've attached my speaker pack for you so you can have a look through. Is it okay if I reach out again in June to see if there's a further conversation to be had? The chance of them saying yes is huge because they think, oh, this person will forget about it in June. But no way, Jose. You're going to come back to them in June, be like, hi. And then they can't really back out of it. So they've seen your speaker pack. You've been on their radar for a while. Maybe in the meantime, you've connected over LinkedIn. And it's much easier for them to say yes to someone they're familiar with than someone who's completely new to them. So that is if you want to get on their radar. If you feel like this is the perfect event for me and I'm going to pitch to this specific event, there's a few things that need to be in there. Please stop with the, hi, my name is this, and this is how good I am, and these are my credentials. Nobody cares, okay? Keep these messages short and sweet. I always reach out by saying, hi, saw your event, looks awesome, just, a little bit of that. Look at their agenda. Show them that you've done your research. Say, hey, I know you have a stage that is all about personal or professional development. If you work in a field like mine, I see you have a stage that's all about professional development. We know that one of the most important things is communication. And I see that you have a track that is specific on communication or something like that. I believe I could add value with my keynote, yada, 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 name the title. Would you be interested in learning more? Again, don't try to win the pitch and win the gig with just that one email. That one email is just so you can get to the meeting. Get the meeting first. And then from that meeting, we can have a further conversation. So always show that you've done your homework. That is the most important part, not just a random message. Hi, this is what I am, who I am, what I do. This is my talk. Please hire me. Like, nobody's going to hire you if you do that.
Lovely. I love this. Yeah, like you go for steps. You use the message to get on meeting. You don't try to win immediately with the message. So you are approaching carefully this person. You're not going all in. I love it. Okay, it's so like let's... Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's a good analogy.
Do you want to marry me?
It's a good analogy. It's a good analogy. I like it. All right, let's get with questions from the crowd here watching. I have a lot of questions, and I will try to go through all of them. I don't know if we have time to go through all of them. And I want to remind everyone watching, give me a follow if you want to be here for the next interviews. We have an interview each week with a new expert, so give me a follow for that, and you're not going to miss them. First question for you, Pascal, from Nikki. Any advice in crafting keynotes? Anything that
Yes.
you can suggest about that, tools or how to create keynotes?
Sure. It's always funny people say, do you have any tools for this? Like, unfortunately, there's no AI, there's no like cool tool, fancy tool for it. There are no cheat codes when it comes to speaking. There is pure excellence. No, right, Nikki. Um, when it comes to crafting keynotes, the first thing we need to do is forget the talk for a second. And it's something that I call identifying your essence. And your essence is the purpose and the goal of your talk. If that is not clear, there's no point in you trying to create a signature or a keynote talk. So, how I try to identify my essence is by doing an exercise called the 5 whys exercise. So, I ask myself, what do I want to speak about? Oh, I want to talk about how you can make more money through public speaking. And then I ask myself, why do I want to talk about that 5 times? And I seek the personal connection to that topic. And every time you ask yourself why, you get a little bit deeper into why that is the thing that you want to talk about. And you'll see that once you get to the end, that answer from I want to talk about how to get paid speaking gigs is a much more interesting answer. Like, I want to create financial freedom for more people through public speaking, So it's a little bit deeper, it's a little bit more refined. And then we can start creating a signature talk. And with a signature talk or keynote, I always like to start with a before we begin story. So instead of, hi, my name is Pascalle, I'm here to talk to you about X, Y, and Z, I say, hey, before we begin, let me share with you what happened on the train the other day. And I share a short anecdote that leads the audience into my story and into my topic, but also gets them used to me as a speaker. They've never seen me before, they've never heard me speak before. They need to get used to me. Then I make sure I dive really deep into the problem, which is called emotional urgency. So you want to build that emotional urgency nice and high before you give them all of the answers, and make sure that you don't put too much data in there, because when it becomes a data dump, it is not that interesting to listen to. So those are just a few of the things I would say is where you start when creating a keynote.
Nice. I like that you touch storytelling, because it's one of the most important skills that we have to
Yeah.
embrace and build as communicators. Nice. Okay. This was for Nikki and Andrew. Andrew wrote, I see you did a TED talk. How many talks have you done before you were accepted by the TED organizers?
Oh gosh. I don't think the TED organizers really care about how many talks you've done, because I know people that did one or two talks and then they got a TEDx talk. So it's not so much about how many talks you've done before. It is about the idea worth sharing, because that's what TED stands for, right? It's all about what is the specific idea that you want to share? What is the perspective you're trying to shift there? So for me, when I spoke to TEDx Shortage, shout out to Sabrina. And we just got to talking, really. This was a classic networking thing. I reached out to her, said, hey, I know you're organizing TEDx, I've got a cool story and I think it could turn into a TEDx talk. That's kind of how it started. We had a conversation, I told her a little bit about my story, and she said, yeah, I think this could be really cool. She's like, do you have an idea for the talk? I said, absolutely. Here's what I would like to share. I did an official pitch. So you have to write a written pitch and do a video, which then needs to get approved by the wider team. And that was that. And they don't really care if you've done 100 talks or 2 talks before, as long as you can show that you're an excellent communicator.
Nice. Do you suggest, I'm going to add this one, do you suggest anyone to go for a TED Talk, or do you think that first you have to build your foundations before you can get on a stage like that?
A TEDx talk is a very specific thing, and not every topic is suitable on there, right? Very
Hmm.
political topics are normally not accepted for TEDx talks. And I do think that the people that I know that got a TEDx talk very early on had been in their industry for an extremely long time. And I'm talking over a decade. And they were already a thought leader in that space and had a very unique take on that specific industry or in that specific space. So I would say it's definitely helpful to do a few talks beforehand, to try out different types of content, to really find your speaker style, and to really find out what is that thing that only you can share as a speaker. That's when you get onto a TEDx stage.
You remind me of maybe the number one question that people have when we talk about public speaking. Do you have any advice or suggestions about beating stage fright?
Well, as someone who struggled with a lot of stage fright, believe it or not, um, it's not about beating stage fright. It is about learning how to exist alongside of it. A lot
Hmm.
of people look at stage fright in the wrong way. They try to get rid of it. That stage fright is a good thing, okay? It's something that we need to embrace. Nerves and stage fright are really nothing more than excess adrenaline that is going through the body. But it means that your parasympathetic nervous system gets activated, and that means that the part of your brain that does the fight or flight also gets activated. And we want to avoid that. So, one thing I do is a few jumping jacks. Okay. On the morning of a big speech, I do a big workout. So, I sweat out a lot of the nerves and anxiety and get rid of a lot of the adrenaline. And then I do a few jumping jacks right before I need to go on, calm myself again, just to get rid of that other bit of adrenaline. But the biggest thing is that you need to change your mindset around fear and around nerves. It's not about beating them, it's around welcoming them, saying, "Thank you for trying to protect me, but I'm going to do this thing anyway." And really knowing where that anxiety is coming from. Is it because you're afraid of what other people will think of you? Is it because there's just so many people looking at you and there's so much pressure? Like, understand where it comes from.
Yeah, something that helped me a lot with this, and I was struggling a lot with stage fright as well. Something that helped me really well, really much, was exactly what you said. We tend to run away from our fears. When we're afraid, we are wondering why we're afraid, and we don't want to have that feeling. But that feeling is inside of us. So why do you want to run away from something that is inside of you? You have to embrace it instead of try to remove it in a way or another. So what helped me really much was to embrace that fear, be aware of the fact that you're afraid, that you're tense, that you're nervous, and focus on it instead of trying to avoid it. Because the more you avoid it, the more this feeling gets bigger and gets stronger and it gets into your mind and will start making you being more and more afraid. So it will fuel your mind and your body, and the feeling will fuel your thoughts, and the thoughts will fuel your feeling. Instead, if you focus on your feeling and you accept the fact that you're afraid and you embrace it and you feel it fully, I assure you that this will stop this never-ending cycle between your mind and your body, and will help you to live with your feelings, because your feelings are part of you.
Yeah.
You have feelings, and some feelings are I would say pleasurable, other feelings are a little less pleasurable, but you have to embrace all of them. So anyway, I don't want to talk about this a lot, because otherwise I will end up in talking about books I read, and it's going to be really, really long. Okay, so lovely. I love this, and I wanted to address stage fright, because obviously when we talk about public speaking, probably public speaking is one of the most powerful fears that people have nowadays. So we had to talk about this. I wanted to ask you the last question that I found here from Andrew. Andrew said, "Do you have any preferences for industry-wide ticketed events or private events hosted by organizations for their employees?"
Yeah, I definitely do. Big preference. I go for private events a lot more than I do for public events. And there's a very simple reason for that. Public events like conferences and trade shows, their goal is to make a lot of money. from ticket sales, from sponsorships. A lot of the speaking slots are saved for the exhibitors or sponsors of the event anyway. And when you pitch to them, either they think that you want to sponsor as well, so they'll try and sell you, or they say, well, you can be on our stage, but we're not going to pay you, because their whole goal is to make a ton of money. So their focus is definitely not on paying speakers. That's why I like to go for the private, more corporate events. I always say to people, B2B is the way to go. That is where the money sits, because they have dedicated budgets. They see this as an investment rather than offering someone a stage. So that's why I definitely go for the private sector.
Thank you very much for that. That's amazing. Well, Pascal, if anyone watching this want to work with you or want to know a little more about you, where can they go?
Sure. So I post every day on LinkedIn. It's probably the easiest way for people to find me. Just Pascalle Bergmans. It's the very pink lady that comes up. So I think you should be able to find me through this event as well. You can also go to www.presentales.com, which is where you'll find some more information about the packages and offers that we have. We help people in either group coaching or one-to-one. We've got a whole team to support people with their speaking journey, all the way from the beginning to getting to those big paid stages. So yeah, follow along for more.
I love it. I love it. I'm gonna drop the links in the description of this interview. So if people want to know a little more and they want to get on your website, they will have the chance to do that. I want to remind everyone, guys, give me a follow if you want to watch the next interviews. We have an interview with a new expert every single week, and we talk about a lot of things. As you can see, today was about public speaking. We talk about marketing. We talk about sales. We talk about brand identity. We talk about visibility. I mean, a lot of topics that will allow you to grow your business and thrive. Pascal, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you saying yes to my invite, and hopefully we're gonna have another interview. Keep getting deeper into the topic of public speaking.
That'd be awesome. This was so much fun. Thank you so much for having me, being so flexible on the dates, because I know it took us a while to find the
We
time.
made it. Eventually we made it, and it was totally
We
worth
made
it
it.
to wait it. Thank you
Thank you
so
so much.
much.
I really
Thank
enjoyed
you.
this.